Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Upakadamayam Darati Shapadantikam Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Titanam Bhavanebhyo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So we're going to move into the next stage, which is association. One of the interesting things about association is that when Mahaprabhu was asked, what's the behavior of a Vaishnava? He didn't say, behavior of a Vaishnava is that he associates with devotees. He said the behavior of a Vaishnava is that he doesn't associate with non-devotees. That was an interesting answer, isn't it? Of course, you could say that's another way of saying he associates with devotees, but there are many, many verses which describe the effects of associating with non-devotees as disastrous for bhakti. And that makes it apparent that is certainly a cautionary measure on the part of any devotee. So Mahaprabhu is saying, this is a devotee. He makes sure he doesn't associate with non-devotees. Then you say, but I have family, I have co-workers, and so forth. And the Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, association takes place when you do the 6 loving exchanges, especially when you open your heart. So that's when the real transference of consciousness, so to speak, or the real effect takes place is when you open your heart with another person. So he said, if you associate with non-devotees, that's okay, but be intimate with devotees, because the intimacy is where you'll be affected. So, and he gives different examples. He said, you have friends and you have obligations and so forth. He said, but don't open your heart to them. That's when your heart becomes vulnerable or susceptible to the association. So that's what they meant by he avoids association of non-devotees. And by studying the effects of association, not just association with devotees, just the effects of association, then it becomes clear how important association is. There's a verse I want to read, and this verse is usually cited when discussing this topic as a kind of one of the main verses. I have it at the end of this document. I should have it memorized, but I don't. So, no, I can't even find it. Actually, there's so many verses glorifying the association and the effects. Isn't it amazing how when you're looking for something, it disappears? And when you're not looking for it, it appears? Oh, here it is. Okay. This is from the Madhya Lila, chapter 28, text 83. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoy Sadhu Sangha. Krishna Prema Janme Teho Puna Mukya Anga. Let me read the word meanings. It'll have more impact. Krishna Bhakti, of devotional service to Krishna. Janma Mula, the root cause. Hoy is Sadhu Sangha. So you got that? Krishna Bhakti, Janma Mula, Hoy Sadhu Sangha. Krishna Bhakti, you know. Janma means birth. Mula means root. Krishna Bhakti, Janma Mula. Hoy is Sadhu Sangha. Association of devotees is the root of bhakti. The root, you know what the root is. Cut the root off, you don't have, you're finished. The root of bhakti is association. You can't be Krishna conscious without association. Impossible. You can't do it alone. You cannot conquer Maya without the association of devotees. Specifically, without the association of a pure devotee. There's sadhu sangha and sat sangha. So sat and sadhu, the pure devotee and then the association of devotees in general. We need both. Sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha, sarva shastakoi, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva shidi hoy. Sharva. Should I be a Bengali? Sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha, sarva shastakoi. Sadhu Sangha, Lava Matra, Sarva Shidi Hoy. Okay? Am I officially Bengali now? Second line, Krishna Prema Janme. So Krishna Prema, love of Krishna. Janme awakens. Tenho, that same association. Puna, again, Mukya Anga, the chief principle. So this is interesting because the first line is saying association is the root. Okay, so I got the root, I associate. So what happens when I'm a tree? Then I don't have to worry about the root. Next line. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential. So different ways of understanding this. One understanding, which is common to all aspects of bhakti, is that in Vaidhi, you do something because it's the right thing to do. And in Bhav, or higher stages of bhakti, you do it because you like it. Right? So when you become Krishna conscious, you like the association. You get the association because you want it. In the beginning, you do it because you should. So that's one understanding. And another understanding is that as you advance, association becomes more relishable. So it's not that you think, oh, I'm advanced, I don't need association. No, it becomes more relishable. There's another verse. This is amazing. So, Vaidhi, by rules and regulations, in love, then you do the same thing. One is an expression of following a rule. Another level is an expression of love, even though you're doing the same thing. So in advanced stages, you're associating because you love the devotees and you love the association. In the beginning, you associate because you know you need it. If you don't get it, you won't be Krishna conscious. I want to find this other. Give me a minute. This is not exactly in order, but I wanted to read a lot of these references because they're really powerful, and I think they'll shake you and wake you and rock you. Because Shastra is powerful. Yes, so this is nice. So this is Dhruva Maharaj speaking to the Lord after he was purified by the Lord touching his head, and he got to see Krishna. O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly, as the waves of a river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nescient ocean of material existence, which is filled with waves of blazing fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. So, Prabhupada talks about Sangha in the purport. And this is one of my favorite purports on Sangha. Are you ready? You ready to hear? Yes? Ready?
Yes.
The significant point in Dhruva Maharaj's statement is that he wanted the association of pure devotees. Okay, this is the statement, one of my favorites. Transcendental devotional service cannot be complete and cannot be relishable without the association of devotees. Cannot be complete and cannot be relishable. Complete and without. Isn't that interesting? That means you can't perfect your bhakti without sangha on any stage. So even if you need the association to go to higher stages, but you can't continue to go without it, and you can't perfect it, and you can't relish it. Bhakti is relished in the association of devotees. You can't live in a cave and relish it. And how do devotees relish? Machchita makata prana bodhyantas parasparam kadhyantasya mamnita tushanti charavanticha. Right in the Gita, 10th chapter. How do we relish? Talking, discussing. Not gossiping, discussing Krishna philosophy. And then by discussion, our realizations and our inspirations increase. We need that, right? Yes? If you're going to get married, ask this question. Can I talk about Krishna with this person? If you can't, why would you marry them? You know, sometimes in Hindu society, even if you're a devotee, you'll marry someone who's not a devotee. But if you can't talk about Krishna with that person, it's going to be not a very happy marriage, at least from the spiritual perspective. Yes? Because what are you going to talk about? Politics, sports, latest fashion, latest movie. So association with devotees involves much around discussion, and that discussion is where we get deeper realization. And as we said this morning, realization is extremely important. If you're always getting realization, you can move forward. Realization is like light on a path when you're lost. What's my next move? Oh, I got a realization. I should do this. Get you out of the ignorance, right? No realization, then we're like stuck in the forest and we don't know where to go. From this statement by Dhruva Maharaj, it is clear that unless one is associated with devotees, his devotional service does not mature. Now listen to this next line. It's heavy. Are you ready for something heavy?
Yes.
Only 2 people are ready? The rest of you want to go outside while I read it? From this statement by Dhruva Maharaj, it is clear that unless one is associated with devotees, his devotional service does not mature. And Prabhupada explains what this means. It does not become distinct from material activities. What does that mean? It means if our bhakti doesn't mature, then our daily life is material. It doesn't show any symptoms of spiritual. You know, it's just like, well, what is different about you? Well, I think that what is different about us? Well, I wear tilak and my co-workers don't. Anything else? No, everything else is the same. I have kanti mala, they don't. I have a shelf full of Bhagavatams, they don't. Do you read them? No. So what's the difference? You know, it's not distinct. It's hard. It's gray. It's hard to see that you are actually different from them. So, now there's another thing about association that's very valuable. I don't know if we call it a secret. I'll call it a secret, because maybe it's not a secret, but to call it a secret makes it more interesting. So here's a secret. One of the secrets of association is that by association we get something that we can't get on our own, or we break a habit that we can't break on our own, or we get an inspiration that we can't get on our own, or we get an insight that we can't get on our own. So let's say I'm weak in something. Let's say I'm addicted to something. Let's say I need an inspiration in something, and I'm trying, but on my own it's not happening. How's it going to happen? Through association. Prabhupada many times said that these four regulative principles you're following because of associations that on your own you won't be able to follow. Or maybe we're addicted to something, and we associate with someone who is very detached, and his association or her association helps us change our mentality. So that's the power of association. It's almost like a free gift. You associate with this person, they have certain qualities, you get infested by those qualities, which is great if the qualities are good, and not good if the qualities are bad. And that's why Mahaprabhu said, avoid association of non-devotees, because who we associate with, we get infested by their nature and qualities. So this is a secret. If you're struggling with something, you need inspiration in some area, associate with a person who's not struggling with that particular anartha, who's overcome it, or who's on his or her way to overcoming it. If you're not inspired in a certain area of your life, associate with someone who is. Mystically, magically, almost automatically, you'll get infected and affected by their association. So that's an important secret. We all have weaknesses, and there's always someone who doesn't have the same weakness we have. And by associating with them, somehow or other, it's like your weakness just dissipates, evaporates, it goes away, you don't know where it is. Because in the light of that association, it can't stand. And you didn't even have to do anything, you just had to be in that association. So that's very important principle. And we should take advantage of that. Any weakness you have, find out a person who is strong in that area and see if you can be with them as much as you need. It might just be taking prasadam with them. It doesn't take long to be infected by association. It's pretty instant, isn't it? And that's why it's said, sometimes just seeing a devotee for a few moments can just like knock the Maya out of you. Isn't it? You had that experience? Like, you just see a devotee and it's like, oh. It's like the power of that devotee is such that just by seeing them, they love a mantra, for a moment, everything changes. Unless one is associated with devotees, his devotional service does not mature. It does not become distinct from material activities. The Lord says, Satam prasangam amabhirya sambhiro bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata. Only in the association of pure devotees can the words of Lord Krishna be fully potent and relishable to the heart and ear. Fully potent. Only in association will the words be fully potent and relishable. Dhruva Maharaj explicitly wanted the association of devotees. That association in devotional activities is just like the waves of an incessantly flowing river. In our Krishna conscious society, we have full engagement 24 hours a day. Every moment of our time is always busily engaged in the service of the Lord. This is called the incessant flow of devotional service. So, when Srila Prabhupada started ISKCON, his main service, main vision was to distribute books. And his vision was not temples. That came later. Because he saw that people were coming. And so temples were created as places to associate. That was the purpose. So many people are coming, they want to be devotees, so now we need a place for them to associate, to hear and chant. We need a place for them to worship deities and so forth. So that was, according to my understanding, that was the secondary thought. It wasn't the primary thought. Oh, people are coming, so you need something. We need a place for association. So, there are 5 items out of 64 which Rupa Goswami has told are extremely powerful. And one of those items is association of devotees. He said each of these items can give you love of Krishna. They're so powerful. Of course, we have to chant purely to get love of Krishna. But each of these items is super powerful, super potent. So what are they? Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavatam, deity worship, and living in a holy dham. So coming to the temple is living in a holy dham. Deity worship, you can engage at home, engage in the temple, seeing the deity, seeing the arti, that's also deity worship. And then hearing Bhagavatam, we have class every day. If you can't come, you read on your own. And Joppa, Kirtan, every day, and Sadhu Sangha. So if you do, a lot of times devotees say, oh, I'm having a hard time. How much you're reading? Well, not that much. How are your rounds? Oh, not that good. You getting much association? Oh, I'm kind of busy. No, I don't go to many programs. Yeah, of course, you're not doing good. It's such a simple thing. So, oh, Guru Maharaj, what should I do? Oh, let me think. This is a tough one. How about reading? How about chanting good round? What about Sadhu Sangha? Like, didn't you learn this like the first day you came? And isn't it obvious that you don't do that? You have trouble? You don't realize how many times I have to give this answer. Maybe I should have it on my website. If you have any problem, this is the first answer I give you. Increase these 5 activities, and you'll be okay. So, Rupa Goswami says, these 5 activities are super potent, super powerful in making us Krishna conscious. Right? So we all know how powerful Sangha is. Right? We all know that, we have experience. And so, sometimes the thought may be, well, if I'm becoming Krishna conscious, and I'm advancing, then I shouldn't be so dependent on the Sangha. Because I can see when I get the Sangha, how Krishna conscious I am. When I go off alone, back to home, it's something like that. But the fact of the matter is, until at least we're on the stage of Ruchi, that's what's going to happen. We're not on a stable platform. So, until we come to Nishta or Ruchi, these activities are just getting the dirt out of the way. And then after that, they're just nourishing, because Ruchi is it's kind of like a spark of love, although we say more asakti or bhava is where the love begins. But you're getting closer to love. So it's now we may be nurturing the bhav, but the bhav is so far away, it's really, nurturing the next level. It's nurturing us to come to the next level, wherever we are. So, these are such powerful activities. And so don't get discouraged if you go up and down. Oh, I read Bhagavatam this week, I'm doing really good. Next week I was busy, I couldn't. Ooh. What's wrong with me? I'm so conditioned, what's the use? Only if I read Bhagavatam and get Sangha and chant good rounds can I be Krishna conscious. If I have a bad day, I'm not. Yes, exactly. That's called conditioned soul. That's exactly what it's like. So you can be doing really well as a conditioned soul, but you have to do your exercises. Like I sprained my knee and I tore my meniscus last February of last year. So after a few weeks they said, oh, you have to do physiotherapy. If you don't do physiotherapy, it won't get better. And it's like, okay. So it actually got better doing physiotherapy. And the more physiotherapy I missed, I forgot to do one day, and it kind of got a little worse. And if I did it, it got better. And yesterday I actually squatted on my knees, which I couldn't do before. Actually, you squat like this. Like this. I sat like this for the first time in 13 months. Oh, give me a big hand. I'm great. So it actually got better. So you could say, now I'm kind of on the stage of ruchi. If I don't exercise it, it's okay. But I would exercise it because I like to, now it would be like, because I want to strengthen it beyond just normal functioning. Have a super strong knee. And like I can climb mountains now. So it's something like that. So we shouldn't think, oh, what's the use of sangha and what's the use of hearing and chanting, because when I stop, I just fall into Maya. No, that's our position as conditioned souls, to fall into Maya. That's what happens, But these 5 activities are like this force under us, and they pull us up. Not because of our strength, but because that we're intelligent enough and determined enough to do those activities. And so because we do them, we go up. Does that make sense? And don't do them, then there's no steam under your feet. And so you just land back where you started from. So in that sense, we don't become discouraged. We just understand. This is amazing. Although I'm a conditioned soul, if I hear Bhagavatam a few hours a day, if I chant good rounds, if I get sangha on a regular basis, if I worship deities, if I come to the temple, I can be extremely Krishna conscious, even as a conditioned soul. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in the early days of the Hare Krishna movement, the devotees were very inspired, as we heard this morning, and very Krishna conscious, because every day between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. and then between like 7 and 9 p.m. they did these 5 activities. And of course they did seva all day. So these 5 activities were going on. So what's that like, 5, 6, 7 hours a day? So even though very conditioned, but right off the, like I like to say, fresh off the street. Here he is, fresh off the street. Okay, he wants to be a devotee, shave him up. Put a dhoti on, here's tilak. Send him out in the van. He's out on the street the next day. Here, take a magazine. This will change your life. How did that all happen? Well, shaved him up, got up the next morning for Mangalarti, chanted his rounds, heard Bhagavatam associated with devotees. It's good to go. Even though he was fresh off the street yesterday, these 5 activities are so powerful that the engine is burning under his feet, and he's incredibly transcendental. And if you pull the engine out, and he just crashes back down, and he's the same guy he was before he joined. That's the reality. So we just have to understand that, and therefore we want to be strict about these activities, because these activities maintain us. And then, when you become Krishna conscious, when you finally get to the stage of ruchi, which could take a long time, because these first stages are the slow part. It's just like, it's like, when you're sick, and you're really sick, and you're trying to recuperate. There's a point when you get a little better, and then you get better very quickly, but till that point you got better, it's like fever every day, aches and pains, headaches. It's going on day after day, and you think it's never going to end. And then one day you wake up and go, I feel a lot better. And practically in 2 or 3 days, you're, maybe you don't go back to work, but you can be pretty active all day. It's very fast. So it's like that. Ruchi is like that day you wake up and it's like, oh, what happened to Maya? Like everything in Krishna consciousness is like really sweet. I just love doing everything. And I'm not thinking about Maya. And then from that point, very quick. It just happens very fast. But before that, it's slow. But the point is, as we said earlier, when you get to ruchi, then you're still doing the same thing, right? But it's having a totally different effect. It's not cleaning out the anarthas. Now it's all just relish, transcendental relish, and it's just pushing you closer to Krishna. And then there's attachment, and then there's ecstasy. And that happens very quick. So until that happy day comes, we want to be extremely careful about these 5 activities. And then when that happy day comes, you automatically do these 5 activities, because now it's all relish. Not because you have to. It's all icing on the cake at that point. Just sweetening everything. Does that make sense? Yes? No? Maybe?
Yes.
Could be? Okay. Now, one thing I like, one interesting thing I like is the instruction by Kapila to his mother. Where he says, I have the verse here, but I don't know if I can find it. I should, yeah, here it is. Yeah, I should have these memorized, but these are all things I learned as a brahmachari, which if you don't remind yourself, you can forget. So this is from Kapila Dev to his mother, Devahuti. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayo vidu saeva sadushu kripto mokshadvaram apabritam. This is from 3rd Canto, 25th chapter, text 20. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit's soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. So what's so nice about this verse? You know, when you first become a devotee, it's all about don't become attached, isn't it? Prabhu, you're too attached. Oh, I just went out here, we had some really good ice cream. Prabhu, don't be attached to ice cream, you're too attached. Oh, I just saw this, I was at this store, they have this. Prabhu, you're too attached. You don't need a new phone. Isn't it? Is that what you hear when you're a new devotee? You're too attached. Yeah. So what's so nice about this verse is that as new devotees we think, well, I shouldn't even be attached to devotees because that's another attachment, which it could be if you're attached to another devotee to enjoy sense gratification. Yeah, so we don't want to be attached in a way that stimulates sense gratification. But the idea of being attached to a devotee is not that the devotee is going to inspire you in sense gratification, but the devotee is going to inspire you in devotional service. So that attachment, this verse says, would liberate you. Like the same attachment, which would cause bondage, will liberate you. But 2 devotees joined long ago, 1970 or 71, when I was the temple president, and they were best friends. And so sometimes I'd give them some service together, and they'd say, don't give us service together, because when we're together, we just fall into Maya, because we just talk about what we used to do before we were devotees. You know? So that's an example of how that relationship was unhealthy, because even though they were devotees, it became, their association just became a source of sense gratification for them in some way, right? So that could happen, but it's rare. But the idea is that if we associate together, we inspire one another in Krishna consciousness. And so then we become attached to one another because of the inspiration that we get. So now, in the last 10 years, many of our God brothers, God sisters have left their bodies. Some of these God brothers and God sisters we were very close with. So it hurts. We miss them. We want their association. So, is it bad? Is it good? No, that's what Kapila Deva is saying. No, we are naturally attached to that association because that association was inspiring us. And so that association is good. So be attached to the devotee. Be attached to serving them. Be attached to hearing from them. Be attached to being around them. And that attachment will liberate you. Now, there's another side of this. Interesting side. Well, I have a story. Maybe some of you have heard this story, but I think most of you have not heard, and therefore I think it's worth teaching this story. Two devotees were traveling, and they ended up about 2,000 miles from their temple in what we call the middle of nowhere, in a place called South Dakota. You probably haven't even heard of it. It's a state in America. It's so in the middle of nowhere, you probably don't even have any idea where it is. But as they say, if this is nowhere, that's in the middle of it. So it's like, we joke, you meet someone from South Dakota and they talk to you and go, oh, I didn't know they spoke English there. And you look at their feet, oh, I didn't know they wore shoes there. So they were very far away in the middle of nowhere. Right? And they were not getting along at all because somebody had to be in charge, right? There's two people, but still someone has to make the decisions, right? It's, how ISKCON is. There's the authority, and then I don't know what you call the person who's not the authority. The authority follower. Is there a name for that person? One who follows the authority. There's the authority, and there's the rank and file. There's the authority, and there's the Prabhus. There's, we used to say, when ISKCON was going bad, we used to say, power to the Prabhus. We want, a revolution. We want to change things, yeah. Like in America, power to the people, power to the Prabhus. So, one is a leader, and one is a follower. The follower didn't like the leader. The follower wanted to be the leader, so the follower didn't want to follow the leader. And so they basically had a miserable time together. And so one day, in those days there were no phones, so you would drop a devotee off and you'd say, oh, I'll pick you up at 6 o'clock. And if the devotee was asked to leave that spot because it was private property, a store, sometimes stores will let you distribute books and sometimes they wouldn't, and then you'd have to go somewhere else, but you would normally come back to that spot because you couldn't call the person because he didn't have a phone. All the best you could do is call the temple on a payphone and say, did he call? So anyway, this person was dropped off and he got kicked out and he went somewhere. And so when it was time to pick him up, it was actually 9 o'clock at night. He wasn't there. And so normally what you would do is, you'd look around and think, well, maybe he's across the street at that store. Where would he go? He's on foot. Where's he going to go? So the devotee was driving around looking for him. He couldn't find him. And I'm not sure where the devotee went, but maybe he was trying to get back. Maybe he got back to that spot late, and so they couldn't communicate. So this is like 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30, 11. They didn't find one another. So finally they found one another, and both of them admitted that they were horrified at the fact that they might be left alone in a city 2,000 miles from their home temple. They were like 22. So, a 22-year-old man, this would be the first time they were ever alone as a devotee. And they'd only been devotees a few years. So now they're in this city alone, and they're all thinking, oh my God, I'm alone, nobody knows, I don't trust myself, who knows what I'll do, I might find somebody selling drugs, or some prostitute approaches me, They both were like frightened to be alone. So, although they couldn't stand being with one another, when they finally met one another at 11 o'clock at night, they were really grateful. So, I often say, I love all the devotees, even the ones I don't love. So I think that story is an example of that. Because we need devotees, right? So we need devotees association, even the devotees we don't like. Because without them, we couldn't be Krishna conscious, right? So I think that's important, because it's an offense not to appreciate devotees. So you may not appreciate them like I want to be your best friend, but I appreciate that your presence is valuable for me, directly or indirectly, and it's so great. But now there's another incident, which is quite interesting, of Queen Kunti. Because you might say, well, okay, we're talking about attachment to devotees, right? And so Queen Kunti says, my dear Lord, detach me from my kinsmen. Who are kinsmen? The 5 Pandavas. Like, why would you want to be detached from the 5 Pandavas? Well, that's good association, isn't it? Would you like that association? That'd be nice. Spend a day with the 5 Pandavas. Don't you think? They have a lot of attachment for Krishna, so that would be good, right? So what's the understanding? The understanding is that she wanted to be detached from any aspect of that relationship that is in any way coded with sense gratification, seeing them as her sons or husbands in a material way. So that's the whole idea, that we're trying to be detached from sense gratification, not attached from association of devotees. Not, I'm going to be detached from all of you. I'm not attached. I'm very advanced. Prabhu, you're coming back to Brisbane? I'm not attached to any of you. I don't think I'll be coming back. No, it's not like that. No, I'm very attached to all of you. I want to come back and see you and chant together and take prasadam together and like that. So attachment comes from sense gratification. That's what it means. Where there's a relationship and there's no sense gratification, there's no material attachment. Then it becomes, if it's with devotees, it becomes purely spiritual. Right? Disciple is very attached to their guru, isn't it? We're very attached to devotees who are very dear to our heart. We're very attached to devotees who help us, isn't it? That's natural. It would be artificial not to be. So, okay, so let's read the purport. Let's read the verse again and the purport. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Purport. If anyone offers service to a gross materialist or a person engaged only in sense gratification, then by association with such a person, the door to hell is open. The same principle is confirmed here. Attachment to a devotee is attachment to the service of the Lord, because if one associates with a sadhu, the result will be that the sadhu will teach him how to become a devotee, a worshipper, and a sincere servitor of the Lord. These are the gifts of a sadhu. So why wouldn't you be attached to a sadhu? Because they're giving you Krishna. Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite par, tomara shakati ache. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. I'm simply running behind you, chanting, Krishna, 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 give me Krishna, give me Krishna. And then the guru gives you Krishna, the sadhu gives you Krishna. Certainly you become attached, more attached than even your own to your own family. This person's giving you Krishna. You know? I mean, so many people left their families to become devotees. And think, don't you care? No, Prabhupada's my father. He's giving me Krishna. It was like, this is the father I never had. He's giving me Krishna. We become so attached. If we want to associate with a sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition, but he will give us instructions on how to cut the knot of the contamination of material attraction and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. That is a result of associating with the sadhu. Kapila Muni first of all instructs that the path of liberation begins with such association. Ado shada tata sadhusanga. So, now Prabhupada explains that once there's some faith, some appreciation or faith in bhakti, that's when a person wants sangha. It's the natural consequence. I believe this is good, it's right, I want to learn more, I want to go in this direction. So just naturally we understand, I want to be with these people. I don't want to be with my friends because my friends will take me some other place. I want to be with these people. And then Prabhupada said, as we said the other day, something interesting. And by that sangha, then the faith increases. There's like a loop here. You know? Sangha, faith gives sangha, sangha gives faith. And I want more sangha. So, sometimes we see there's a problem. A devotee doesn't act properly, or a group of devotees don't act properly. And then we distance ourselves from the sangha, and that becomes a problem for us. Or we become critical of Vaishnavas because conditioned souls are not perfect. Have you noticed that? Any of you noticed that? You notice the person you're married to isn't perfect? Did you notice? Or you haven't seen that? So, yeah, well, if you haven't seen it yet, you will. And so we're kind of looking or expecting perfection, and we're not therefore able to appreciate the value of association. Even the devotees are not perfect. The power of association still comes through. Isn't that amazing? Anyone here perfect? Raise your hand if you're perfect. Okay, so we have no perfect people. Does that mean the association is not powerful? No, because in everyone's heart is a sincere desire to be Krishna conscious, and that is what you get. And everybody has some quality, good quality that I lack. In all of you, I can see something I lack, and therefore you make up for my deficit. That's the power of Sangha. You don't have to be perfect. So this is something to be careful of. When we become critical of Vaishnavas, the consequence often of that is we want to separate. Because by focusing on their bad qualities, it makes us feel uncomfortable or disturbed around them, to be in their association, and we'd rather be away. And so the problem is, but we can't be Krishna conscious on our own. Prabhupada said that in the purport we read previously. We can't be Krishna conscious on our own. So we have to learn how to love the people we don't love. Learn how to love the people you don't love. You could make a t-shirt. That would be a good one. Learn how to love the people you don't love. So we have to learn how to love the devotees. If you know what I mean. So that means we tolerate the defects and we appreciate their sincerity, although we may not particularly agree with everything they say or do, but we appreciate them as devotees, and therefore we can benefit from their association, right? But if we are too negative, then we won't benefit from their association, and then the next step, or worse, is we'll criticize, and then that will be problematic for us. So it's an important principle. Let's say Untitled Prabhu is not perfect. Of course, we know he is, but just for the sake of discussion, we'll say he's not perfect. And I focus on that thing that's not perfect about him. How does that affect me? Very negatively, right? Let's say I focus on that thing which is glorious about him. How does that affect me? Very positively. So we always don't realize that we're trapping ourselves by how we see another person. So he may objectively do something wrong, but he doesn't only do wrong things, he does right things also. And so what do I focus on? What I focus on affects me. Either it's right or wrong. And then the next thing we want to consider, which is kind of an interesting question to ask yourself, why would I want to focus on what Ankit does wrong? Why? Okay, he's doing something wrong. Everybody does something wrong, but why do I need to focus on it? That question I have to ask myself. What's going on with me? So we think, no, he's doing something wrong, it's obvious, and therefore I see it. No, it's not like that. We're seeing it because we want to see it. Or not that we want to see it, we're focused on it. Okay, maybe we see it, we can't avoid, well, obviously, he did something wrong, we all saw it. But why do I want to focus on it for the rest of the day or week or year or life or lifetimes? So then we have to ask ourselves, why? What is it about me that I need to focus on what he did wrong? And then again, we want to understand how that is affecting me. So I want to get the benefit of the association of Vaishnavas, but now I'm in their association and I see, oh, you have a fault, I see everybody's fault, and I'm sitting in this room and I'm harming myself by seeing all your faults rather than appreciating you. Now, if I appreciate you, I benefit myself. It's good for you also. Oh, Sanket, I really appreciate you did this and that. So he feels good, he feels inspired, and it helps me. But if I see his fault, I'm harming myself. And if I do that and I don't take responsibility, and I'm saying, well, how can I see it any other way? Because he made a mistake, so I just see it. Yeah, but you want to see it. Otherwise, you wouldn't really focus on it. So that's a very important principle. That's why we were discussing in Sydney that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave his commentary on verse 31 of chapter 9, where Krishna says, if you see a devotee committing something abominable, but you see that he's sincere and remorseful, then consider him a saint, and very soon he'll become righteous, dharmatma. And Krishna says in verse 31, Chipram bhavati dharmatma shantim shasvas chantim nigatschati konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Very soon he'll become righteous and he'll never perish. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said there's also another way of looking at it. Krishna says in text 30, even if he does something abominable, you should see him as a sadhu, and that's an order. And Krishna's ordering, you see this person, Sankit ate 26 sweet balls for breakfast, but still, you should see him as a sadhu. Because now he's regretting, I ate too many sweet balls, I shouldn't have done that, I'm such a fool and rascal. He's beating his head with a stick. So we see, oh, he's regretting. So Krishna says he's regretful. And he's now determined, I will never eat a sweet ball in the rest of my life. And, wow, he's a sadhu. Krishna says, you must see him as a sadhu because he rectified himself. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, very soon he becomes righteous. And he says, who becomes righteous? Not only the devotee, but the person who sees the devotee as a sadhu, he becomes righteous. Isn't that interesting? So Krishna's saying, see Sanket as a sadhu, even if he eats 28 sweet balls. And if you see him as a sadhu, very soon you'll become righteous. And if you don't see him as a sadhu, very soon you will go down. If not immediately, soon thereafter. Oh, you won't believe. Oh, Sundari Radha, you won't believe what I saw. Sanket ate 28 sweet balls. This guy is a glutton. Oh my God, what a sense and joy. And on. And Sundari Radha's like, oh yeah, you should have seen him last week. He ate 32. I don't know what's wrong with him. We got to talk to him. And someone else, well, you should have seen him last month. He ate a sweet ball as big as a bowling ball. And so we're all going down by our speaking. So this is something that I don't think we're all so consciously aware of. We just think, oh, he ate 28 sweet balls, so I'm just telling you he ate 28. Just reporting the news. Today news at the Brisbane Temple, Ankit Prabhu ate 28 sweet balls. Oh my God. That's all I'm doing is reporting the news. Yeah. But when you appreciate Ankit, in spite of the 28 sweet balls, you advance. When you focus on the 28 sweet balls, you go down. So this is an important principle that Krishna teaches, that we have to, it's not just innocent that I notice a fault and focus on it. And so ask yourself, if you're focused on a fault, why? And understand that the power of sadhusanga doesn't take place when you're criticizing devotees. Not only do you lose the power, but it works against you. Like they say, the sun, what is it? The sun opens a lotus and closes a lily, or vice versa. You know, so the one thing that can give you so much Krishna consciousness, which is the Sangha, it can also destroy you. Yes?
What if it's a grihastha situation and, you know, the husband or the wife could be doing something which is actually directly affecting you, and it could even be to the point of maybe even slightly breaking principles? How do you deal in that situation?
What do you mean, you're living with them? And you're seeing something, what? That one's offending the other and it's upsetting you, or what? I'm not clear.
Even just what they're doing, you know, like.
Oh, it's not to your standard.
Not to the standard of ISKCON.
Oh.
Let's say they're not even chanting their round. I'm actually in a situation where I work with some devotees, and it can get a little bit off at times.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. I have a story for you. How many of you would like to hear a story?
Yeah.
I don't think, if you, most of you have not heard this story. Now, before we tell the story, we have to explain that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur did his best to help his disciples avoid criticizing. And of course, you know, we always talk about constructive criticism, you know, helping someone. So that's there. But now we're just talking about unnecessary criticism. So whenever there was criticism that was unnecessary, he was very concerned. Because the essence of Vaishnavism is humility. And criticism is anything but humility. It's the opposite. So he was very concerned about that. So let's keep that in mind, and now we'll tell the story. Act 1, Scene 1. Senior Brahmachari, Gaudiya Math leader.
Not chanting his rounds.
Some sound effects. Dun, 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 dun. Senior Brahmachari, Krishna Das, is not chanting his round. It's like a police TV show, you know. What are we going to do with him? Dun, 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 dun. So they go to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta and they tell him, Krishna Das, Senior Brahmachari, not chanting his rounds. So what would we do? Oh my God, I can't believe it. This is so bad. Call the GBC. What are we going to do? You know, we'd be, you know, like, get on Facebook, tell the world, you know, we have to do something. And so he said, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, is he doing seva? And they said, yes, he's doing seva. He said, all day he's engaged? Yes, he's engaged all day. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta says, just see. He has so much bhakti. It's overflowing that even he doesn't chant his rounds. He got so much reserve from all his bhakti that he can do service all day. If I didn't chant my rounds, I'd fall down immediately. So he's like flipping because he doesn't want us to criticize. So he takes a situation which is obviously wrong and he flips it and says, you should appreciate it. Isn't that amazing? See, because it's a trap. It's a trap. Now, of course, you can choose your association, you know, if you can't deal with it. But he emphasized so much to not criticize and appreciate that he could take that situation and flip it around as an appreciation. And also, because I've studied his teachings, what he was doing, he was condemning himself, and he was putting himself lower. Not just saying, well, he's trying his best, and let's see what happens. He says, just see, he's better than me. Isn't that amazing? So he's teaching that. Again, the same reason, because if we don't learn to do that, we'll make offense, and then we'll be affected. And so then we're allowing that person to harm us. That's the trap. Like, oh, you didn't get up this morning and you didn't chant your rounds, and now I'm upset. So now I'm allowing you to harm me. And I could be inspired by you. Oh. I could be inspired by something else you do, but I'm focused on what you didn't do. So. Yes?
What about with some devotees who by nature perhaps have got like a really high standard and perfectionist mentality, and they see so many faults that they actively stay away from association, and they might chant and do daily worship at home and read and sort of convince themselves that that's better than coming and criticizing. What do you say?
What would I say? I will say what my godbrother Vaisheshika Prabhu said. He said, the greatest austerity is to cooperate with other devotees. Isn't it? It's like I was saying, you have to love those you hate because we need association. So we have to be able to figure out how to exist within the association in a way that we don't commit offense. So, you could say, okay, devotees do bad things and I criticize them, and, that sounds valid. I don't want to criticize them, so let me stay away. But wouldn't it be better to learn how to associate without criticizing? That would be a step up. So, you could say, in a sense, there's validity in what they say, that it may be sincere even, but then it does affect our spiritual life if we don't get association. And then, because we're social beings, so if we don't get devotee association, we have to get some association. Then we might start associating with other people, and then we get affected by that association. So that's also, it's also a reality. We do get affected, and sometimes it's subtle. We don't even know it. So, I'd say with a general answer, maybe specific individuals, the answer would be different, but the general answer is we have to learn how to love those we don't love. And we have to learn how to be appreciative of those we don't appreciate. And the one thing that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that has always struck me, he said that he was taking again this humble perspective. He said, I can't appreciate the devotees because I'm not humble. He just took that as self-reflective. Like we might say, oh, well, I can't appreciate this devotee because there's nothing to appreciate about them, or for whatever reason, which becomes an excuse when he's saying, well, it's because I'm not humble. So that's a nice way of looking at it. Why don't you appreciate it? Well, there's nothing to appreciate about him. That's how we might look at it, instead of saying, well, it's just that I'm not humble, so I don't appreciate it. So, if you study his teachings, he has emphasized these points in various ways over and over again. And it really becomes clear that humility is an essential and most necessary and essential ingredient of bhakti, because he stressed it so much. Even in situations, like he would say, like, okay, he said, fault finding doesn't mean that you find a fault when a fault doesn't exist. That's part of it. He said, but fault finding also means you find a fault when it does exist. So it's not like, well, Amrita Radhika has a fault and I just pointed it out, so it's not fault finding. He had said, no, it is fault finding. Even though the fault is obvious, she did something wrong, but it's fault finding to focus on it and point it out. So I think that's important also. Now, devotees will say, but what if somebody's doing something and it's harmful to the community? Yeah, we want to stop it and we have to acknowledge it. But I think what he meant by fault finding was it was not a benevolent, it was not out of benevolence. It was out of our own weakness and wanting to point out the defects of another person when it's not required. Or even if it is required, but then we're doing it with a wrong mentality. So I would say my general answer is we want to learn how to associate with devotees, respect devotees, and then choose people we want to be intimate with. Maybe you don't want to be intimate with everyone, that's fine. But at least one or two, We need one or two friends. And then appreciate the devotees in general. That's important. If we remove ourselves from that association due to the wrong mentality, but we're the losers, for sure. We need it. So, what did you learn today? You learned to love the devotees you don't love. That's what you learned today. Yes?
And, just another question on the earlier note when you're talking about like with Kunti's prayers that we should only associate with service. At the same time, you also find that often the devotees, we don't know each other too intimately or too on a personal level because we don't spend much time together. So you see that at times, there are rare occasions when there's some sort of a devotee picnic perhaps, or a bush walk or some games. You can really bring friendship, kind of happy home or for friendship. So how do you see that even though there are activities that are not directly service related, there is always that underlying factor we all know the devotees, even if you don't directly talk about Krishna. So how would you put that into?
Yeah, I would say we should all go camping. And every night we share a tent with somebody else. Or every day we change our tent and then we get to know one another. One president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. You've heard of Abraham Lincoln? He was, if you Google Abraham Lincoln, see the things he said, much better than what Donald Trump says. Like another universe better. Like brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And he said, if I don't like someone, I just need to get to know him better. So I found that to be true. Sometimes it's just on the surface, we don't know someone and we don't appreciate them until we get to know them. So, yeah, I think that's important. If you can arrange ways to get to know one another better. You can even do an exercise. We did this once. Bhakti Mark Swami did. There was a lot of us, a lot of devotees together. We didn't know one another. And he said, just spend a little time talking to one another. And then you can switch and go to different devotees. You tell about your life and so forth. We just had a meeting in Mayapur, and every other year they bring leaders together, GBCs and sannyasis and gurus, and they discuss various topics. And the very first thing we did was we just told one another how we became devotees. So we got to know one another a little bit, like, oh, this is what I did, this is where I grew up, and I lived in this village, and my parents were farmers, and then I went to university, and I was a top student, and I learned about Krishna, and I lost interest. It's like, oh yeah, me too. That's the same thing. My parents weren't farmers, but the university was the same. So we were just, it was personal. It was nice. And then we had another discussion on just on how do we deal with digital distractions. What about taking care of our health, diet? We were just sharing, So it was like really nice. So definitely those things are valuable, for sure. As we get to know people, we can bond more deeply. Yeah. So you're all going to go camping, right? Different tent every night? Or you can all go on, still might be time, you can fly to Mayapur and go on the Parikrama. Maybe it already started. And you can bring your tent, you could all stay, get a big tent, you can stay 4 in a tent. And if you don't like one another, you'll have to learn how to like one another, because there are no other tents for you. Yes?
I read somewhere that we should always associate with the Madhyamadhikari, but my question is that if we start discrimination, this is the Kanishta, this is the Madhyam, and this is the...
Oh, it's no problem. No problem. I have a meter. You just put it up to the heart. Uttama Madhyam, and it also gives you where on the continuum. And you're a Madhyam. We can be friends. You're Kanishta. Don't talk to me. No. It's not about not associating. It's not about not associating. It's about how to associate. So the idea is you're more advanced than someone, then you should be in a position to help them. That's the etiquette of the relationship. If you're less advanced, you should be in a position that they would help you. So even the madhyam, if they associate with the uttama, it'll be the uttama helping. The madhyam associates with the kanishta, it's also, let me be of service to you. If madhyam, it's let's be friends. Madhyam to uttama, let's serve. So that's the idea. So it's not, but at the same time, you want to forge more intimate relationships with those who are more like you or have your nature, who you are like mine. So it's not that we should feel bad if I'm not intimate with everyone. But at the same time, we shouldn't dislike. Maybe I don't like is different than I dislike. Well, I don't want to be intimate with this Prabhu. You don't like him? No, he's a nice person. I have my friends, and these are the people I relate to. It's just like you choose a guru. It doesn't mean you don't like all the gurus that you didn't choose, right? So it's something like that. The thing to be aware of is that if we don't feel inclined to intimately associate with another devotee, we just want to be careful not to be offensive. Not to say I don't like them or I hate them or something. Just no, I choose, these are the devotees that I relate to the best. And that's just me. Doesn't minimize the other devotees, it's just me. So that's important. Once we come to the point where we dislike somebody or we're critical, then it's going to harm our bhakti. Maybe not grossly, it might harm your japa, your ability to enter more deeply in the holy name, your ability to more deeply absorb the study of Prabhupada's books. It can have some effect. So we want to be careful. Okay, maybe I don't like you, but I make sure that I don't liking you. I don't allow that I don't allow that judgment. I reframe that judgment. I choose not to. These devotees are nice, but not my cup of tea, so to speak. Right? As opposed to, I don't like these devotees. Then that starts to become dangerous. And then you can rationalize that. Well, they left ISKCON, so now I have a good reason not to like them, and if I don't like them, what's the problem? Because I think they're offending Prabhupada. And so you have your whole list of rationalizations to hate somebody who's a devotee. That's not good. That's offensive. Padma Purana says, and this is a tough one, that it's an offense if we see a devotee and we're not happy. Oh, it's you. I had to deal with you last year when I came here. I thought you'd be gone by now. No. So, it's like, Hare Krishna Mataji, and then whoop, and I run to the other side of the temple. I don't hate you. It's just, as long as we keep a distance, the relationship is good. Something like that. High fences, good neighbors, something like that. So that's the idea. So I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to see all of you. That's the attitude. If I'm not, that's considered offensive. In the story, we have heard the story, Rupa Goswami was meditating on Krishna Lila, and there was some funny pastime, and he was laughing. And while he was laughing, there was a devotee who walked by who was crippled, and the devotee thought that Rupa Goswami was laughing at him, and the devotee took offense. And because the devotee took offense, Rupa Goswami's meditation broke. That was a result of, but he didn't make the offense, but because the devotee took offense, it affected him. It took him out. Yeah.
Even his intention is not.
Yeah. It's just because the devotee was offended, and so it broke his meditation. That was the result. So this, it's subtle. So the best advice I could give, and which I try to practice, is respect and appreciate everyone. But certain devotees, I respect and appreciate more. I want to be closer to them. They're my closer friends. Other people, it's just natural. Prabhupada has said this also. It's just natural. Before we were devotees, it was natural. You weren't best friends with everyone in school. Then it's natural now. But in choosing people you want to be close with. Don't offend people you don't want to be close with. You're not good enough for me. I don't like you because of this or that. And that's toxic. And that's not what Krishna consciousness is all about. And we don't want to teach that to the world, do we? Yes?
So, you've made a lot of mistakes so far, especially in this regard. And even when we try to improve ourselves, the old nature sometimes comes back.
Yes.
At the same time, we are very mindful. It is 100% affecting our bhakti seriously. Fortunately.
Mm-hmm. I can speak from my own experience. I would say I have strategies. And the strategies are based on trying to see how I can respect those that I don't naturally find respectable in all ways, or sometimes I find maybe even offensive in some ways. So I started with the point I made earlier, that if I don't respect, it harms me. It doesn't harm that person. I'm harming myself by not respecting. And I realized that everything I respect in a devotee, about a devotee, is very, very beneficial for me. Because if you have a quality and I can see it and I respect it, it'll have a positive effect on me. And I'll be inspired by that quality. And it may be a quality I don't have, so it's especially valuable. And if I focus on a fault you have, it's going to degrade me. So that means the potential that I have to benefit from your association, I'm the one who's going to take advantage of it or lose the advantage or even harm myself. So that was one distinction I made. And then another distinction I made was that as I was understanding what it means to be humble in a practical way, I think a lot of times we look at humility in a very impractical way. Like, to be humble means I'm just supposed to go around and oh Prabhu, I'm nothing, you're everything. As opposed to learning humility from the perspective of being able to respect everybody, even though I know they do things in ways I wouldn't do them, or they've said things that I thought were maybe not sensitive or even offensive. But still, because I'm practicing humility, this is my challenge. And so if I want to learn to be humble, here's a good person to be humble with, the one that I think is doing something wrong and I really don't respect very much. Here's my chance to appreciate what he's doing well, what his good qualities are, what Prabhupada would appreciate about him. So I think that's important to look at humility in a practical way, not in a not avoid the reality that now I'm confronting this person, and if I don't deal with him properly, it's my pride, and being able to admit that. And that happened to me in Mayapur. There's one devotee that I don't always appreciate who he is, but in other ways I appreciate. And so I just had to focus on the other ways that I appreciate. The sincerity, the dedication, been a devotee maybe 48 years, like all these things. There's so much to appreciate. And so, when I was around him, I'd say, okay, this is a challenge. And I'm either going to become a little more humble or a little more proud in his association. It'll tend to go one way or the other. So I was just conscious of it. So I think that helps. And for me, also, at this point in my life as a devotee, it's like I'm almost hitting my, what's my 50th anniversary, next year. Next January 20th will be the 50th anniversary that I moved into the temple. In March next year, right around now, be my 50th anniversary of initiation. So, golden jubilee. You know, so like after my golden jubilee, I'm still like, you know, proud and puffed up. And so, you know, it's like, I think for many of us at some point it's like, okay, here's the philosophy, it's about time I actually live it, you know, rather than just give classes on it. And we become reflective, and we really look at it in all dimensions and all realities, what I am and what I'm not. And, you know, and then we ask ourselves, well, are you ever going to become it, or are you just going to pretend? So I think if we see that way, then we can see the opportunities to practice humility are there. And even though we may not like this person, we see, okay, this is a challenge now to be able to appreciate them. And because of my pride, I can't. And then confront them. Rather than think there's something wrong with him, we think, well, there's something wrong with me. That's how I've done it. Yeah, I can't say it's easy. Fighting conditioning is never easy. But awareness of the conditioning and awareness of how it affects us and a willingness to deal with it is the beginning. And just keep fighting it and don't give up. And you'll probably fail here and there. And just keep fight. Yes? Is that okay, or you want more? Oh, you know, you can talk about humility for the next 10,000 years, and we might, you know, might not even move much forward towards humility. It's such a difficult thing. But I just think it's nice when those challenges are there. You know, like somebody walks in the room, and it's like, I don't like them, I feel uneasy. Like, what's going on? And I'm envious of them. Why is that? Well, because they have some quality that I lack, and I don't want to admit it. Something like that. Like just confront it. I mean, ultimately we have to confront these things, and then that can help us. You know, like rather than because normally we just write them off as the other person's problem instead of our problem. So at some point in our life, we have to start looking. Hey, wait a minute, this is my problem. It's not their problem. I mean, they are who they are. It's my problem that I don't like who they are. And so let me look at that instead of look at them. You know, so it's just a question, when are we going to do that? This year, next year, 10 years, you know, like that. So you had a question.
Yeah, Prabhu, slightly outside, I guess, ISKCON realms, I suppose, but in a similar way. In ISKCON, you've obviously got the common purpose of devotee association to enhance your, I guess, spiritual well-being. But outside of ISKCON, you've still got relationships which are based more on blood bonds rather than their common purpose as such. Would your advice still be the same in terms of...
Oh, that's easy. My advice is take birth in America in your next life and you won't have this problem. As long as you're in an Indian family, you have to deal with it. We have relationships, and we can't give them up. But we try to create some boundaries in those relationships so that they don't harm our bhakti. You know, like you know, your mother may make some demands, your father may make some demands, which naturally you want to try to fulfill, but you don't want to try to fulfill them, any of the demands, or in a way that would corrupt your own bhakti. So, and then you have to let them know, like, this is what I can do and what I can't do. I learned that from my wife. She did that with her mother. Said, this is just like, you know.
We just did that with our mothers as well.
Yeah. This is. My mother-in-law was trying to give a name. You know, they were discussing the name of my daughter. You know, when she was born, or right before she was born, they're discussing the names, and my mother-in-law said, "Oh, I like this one. I don't like that one." And at a certain point, my wife said, she said, "Mom, we'll decide what the name is. Thank you." And so she got the message. You know, it's like you've just gone over the border a little bit too far. Yeah. And it can be explained nicely and say, you know, this is my conviction. These are my practices. Especially if you're initiated, I took a vow to do this, and you know, I can't compromise here. Yeah, other things I can do, but this I can't. You just make it nicely. Same thing at work, you know, there's the party. This one devotee, when he'd go to these parties, he would just, you know, walk around with Coca-Cola. Nobody knew it wasn't, they didn't know it wasn't alcohol, so it was like, it was okay, just drinking his Coca-Cola or whatever. Otherwise, it was just too many people thought he was weird and this and that. So, he made adjustments. Or you tell them, I'm higher than you and I don't drink, because I'm drunk on the holy name. So that analogy is given also, drunk on the wine of the holy name. There are different ways to do it, and it's just good to let people know these are my boundaries. Yes.
Mahatma Prabhu, in Devotee Association, what would you recommend for developing intimate relationships or genuine connections? Sometimes there's too much on reverence, and the seniors have to cut the profile, and the juniors are and there's not much of a intimacy generally.
How to break through the profile. Sounds like a topic for another seminar.
I had a similar question, based on what I've heard is, being a newcomer is hard because devotees want to associate with someone higher than them, higher people already have their self-worth. So as a newcomer, it's quite hard to kind of, aspire to that level, associate with them. So what advice would you give?
Well, this is an interesting question, or two interesting questions, because the etiquette is supposed to nourish bhakti, not make it difficult to associate. We had discussed this a little bit on Wednesday night, about being more genuine or more real than I don't know, what's the word? What's the word I want? Going brain dead. Formal. Yeah. The goal is to bring everyone Krishna. And so, sometimes too much formality and etiquette can get in the way of relationships. And sometimes senior people don't like all that formality and people honoring them. They like it more equal and genuine. So I think it's a combination of both. You are who you are and you want to relate the way you want to relate. At the same time, you respect people for their position. And I guess all you can do is be yourself and see what everyone else does when they find out what you're really like. Being genuine and real is always the best. We had talked about it Wednesday night. We don't want to create some kind of artificial competition where everyone's trying to look, Krishna conscious, just to appease everyone else. You go home and your life's different. You come to the temple and you make sure you behave as a pure devotee, so you give the right impression. Now, sometimes devotees will do that not out of false ego, just because they want to be good association for others. So they want to dress properly and act properly because they want to. But sometimes it's out of false ego, just to impress or get others to believe that I'm Krishna conscious. I was joking. I said, if I wear a chadar, I look more Krishna conscious. Right? Put on, perfect tilak, I look more Krishna conscious. Yeah. So these things happen sometimes in earlier stages of bhakti when looking is more important than being. But as you become more concerned about actually being Krishna conscious, these things are less important. You're more concerned about loving Krishna than people thinking you love Krishna. In the beginning, you may be more concerned that people think you love Krishna. And later, you become actually concerned about whether you love Krishna. And you don't really care. You don't want even them to think that you love Krishna. In the beginning, you want people to think you're advanced. Later on, that's the last thing you want people to think. Sometimes people say, they come up to me and say, what should I call you? Das, Prabhu, Maharaj. And I'm always thinking in my mind, just call me dog. Because as you progress in devotional service, you you see how impure you are. You become more aware of your impurities, and you just, call me dog das. I'm just, that's how we feel. But if you're early on in bhakti and image is important, well, you can call me Maharaj. That'll be good for you. Respect me. That's how we think. So that we don't want to cultivate that. That's not why we become devotees, to get a position. We become devotees to become servant of the servant. I told this story. It's a funny story. So there's a devotee, and he's really, really proud. You ever meet a proud devotee? They don't exist, right? Because devotees are more humble than a blade of grass. But occasionally, one slips through. He slipped through the security gate and he made it into ISKCON, and he's proud. And this devotee is really, really proud. I'm like, it's just his personality, like Lord Brahma complex, something like that. So he's paying obeisances. Prabhupada's walking and he's paying obeisances next to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada sees him. And Prabhupada, what we've seen, Prabhupada just knows what's in the mind and heart of devotees. And this devotee's name was Kailash Chandra Das. And Prabhupada walked by him and he said, this devotee was paying obeisances. While he was paying obeisances, Prabhupada said, "You are Kailash Chandra Das, 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 1,000 times Das." Wow. So, that's it. That's what we are, 1,000 times. And Prabhupada wanted to make sure this devotee understood that. 1,000 times Das. Hare Krishna. What time do we end? 12 o'clock? Okay. So, it's nice seeing you all. And what about tomorrow? What's the plan?
This evening is at the yoga club.
We're going to have a wild kirtan tonight. You're all invited at the yoga club. And tomorrow, what's the plan?
Tomorrow morning is Bhagavatam class. And 10 o'clock is the meeting with the youth, if I can gather a few of them.
Okay. So then the Bhagavatam class will continue. We'll do the next topic, Bhajana Kriya, which is very interesting. And I have all my music on CD, on USB, and it includes all the Prabhupada's music. So I have, I don't know how many hours of music. Too many hours of music. And then I think there's like 40 hours of Prabhupada in the USB. And then I have 34 workshops on another USB. And all my CDs are on that as well. Not as much music. That's the gold CD and the silver CD, and there's we'll set it up somewhere. Yes? One more question?
I just wanted to ask, we bought the USB and we really enjoyed it. Can I get your permission to play it in my yoga class?
Can you?
I teach yoga.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
Thank you.
Once you got it. Oh, and I have a book that you haven't seen. I have a couple books. One book is being shipped here, but if it doesn't come today, it comes Monday. It's a book called Joppa Affirmations. And it's been well received. I didn't even plan to write this book. I actually spoke it, and it was transcribed. And it puts the essence of the Joppa workshop in affirmation form. So it's been available for a while in India. And I brought only 50 with me, which sold in Sydney. And then the shipping got delayed, and we're hoping maybe we'll get it Monday, and we can leave some here.
Tuesday.
What?
They have a confirmation coming on Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday, just see. Anyway, so guaranteed coming Monday. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you about it because the book's very popular. So we'll leave maybe 50 here for this community. And it's only $5 US, maybe 7 of your dollars. And then I have another book which I wrote, and it came out in 2017, which I sold out of, and that was being reprinted, and also the printing got held up. And I don't know why it got held up, but I was hoping it was going to be finished in January and I would bring them here. But as of 2 days ago, it's on Amazon. So it's called Uplift Yourself, Change the World. Your Growth is a Gift by Martin Hausner. That's my other name. So if you're interested in that book, you can get it on Amazon. And I might have a poster advertising the book, and if I do, we'll print the poster you can see. And but you'll have the Joppa book. And then there's another new book coming. And maybe we'll ship some books for you. So actually, by the end of this month, I'll have 3 books, which is somehow or other amazing. I don't know how I did it. But this other book is called Living the Wisdom of Bhakti. And it's all the practical aspects of applying Bhakti in your life. And I think it'll be really helpful for devotees. So maybe we'll ship some down here. Okay? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari.
His Grace Mahatma Prabhu ki
Gaura Nityananda.